Hey, it's SickBoy from the Gaming Anarchist Collective and welcome to the Anarchic Eye for January the 29th, 2014. Well, Capcom, Jesus Christ. After Dead Rising 3 got a 13GB patch on the Xbox One exclusive. After comparing the two titles, it appears that pre and post patch you still have a maximum of 30 FPS on this 720p upscaled game. Now I know that between Dead Rising 2 and Dead Rising 3 they've multiplied the amount of enemies on screen, however there is significant slowdown. It runs on average in a busy area at 22 FPS. Fucking hell, is this meant to be next gen, Capcom? Sort that fucking bollocks right out. Well, a bit of good news for those PS4 owners who have been reporting issues with the rubber on the left analog stick, and also the right, but mostly the left because it has more wear. Now, Sony have released a statement when approached about this situation, and they have responded that if your controller is within warranty, which of course it fucking is because it's only been out for 2 months, then if there is wear on the rubber, they've claimed that it goes through their QA system. If there's a failure, send it back and they will replace it provided it's still within the warranty. So this may well be a recurring issue with the first batch of the DualShock 4s. It may well be that there may be a case of that people will be returning these within the year, and then they will perhaps bring out a refined model that perhaps has a better quality of rubber on the sticks. I'd like to see so, because it's bullshit. You shouldn't be having wear and tear on your fucking controller within 6 weeks of having your console. That's absolute shite. So, good on you, Sony, for agreeing that you're going to fix it and obviously do what you should be doing, but what the fuck is up with your design? Well, the plot thickens with the massively overpriced Tomb Raider Definitive Edition. It turns out that the Xbox One version has been developed by United Front, and the PS4 version has been developed by Nixxes. Now, this is an interesting point, to see that it is not just the same company working on different hardware producing different qualities of results. Square Enix have utilised different development houses to do this. Now, Nixxes have already got previous experience with Tomb Raider. Now, the initial version of Tomb Raider when launched on PC did have some significant quality issues. The tress effects, the hair effects, that was the biggest selling point, which is something that's coming to the next-gen consoles, wasn't working terribly well. There were some problems. It appears to have been somewhat resolved, but it's with PC gaming, you never know. Obviously, there's a lot of hardware capability issues. Now, so this means a big difference. So actually the developers, United Front, who are most famous really for making Sleeping Dogs, have come on board and have attempted to port this game onto the Xbox One. So I'd have to say that they will be arguably a less qualified developer to do that. So that certainly does say that there will be a distinct difference in quality of the finished product. They are not the Definitive Edition, despite the fact that they should contain all the fucking DLC. But the fact of the matter is that these are actually two different products. They are two separate ports made for separate machines by separate companies. This is not how you do a Definitive Edition, by essentially doing two renditions of the same game. Come the fuck on! Well, as if to hammer home that point, it turns out that a number of the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition cutscenes on the Xbox One are not actually 1080p as they previously stated. They're actually running at around 900p, which will explain the, when people are doing the comparison shots, the comparative blurring between the two titles. That the PS4 in general has looked crisper with these shots. Now, during the gameplay, they have said that it will be 1080p. However, averaging out at 30 FPS, as we know, compared to the PS4's 60 FPS. Again, as I just said, what kind of Definitive Edition is this, Squeenix? This isn't a Definitive Edition. This is charging full price, again, for the same fucking title, and gypping the Xbox One customers, really, because what they are getting is clearly an inferior product, and they're paying premium price for it. Well, I'd like to take the opportunity to point out Game Informer's absolute bullshit with regards to Nintendo. Now, I will be going into the other issues with Nintendo in a minute, but when they were talking about what is wrong with Nintendo? What are their problems? One thing they mentioned is about the friend system. Now, they made some valid points that, of course, there isn't really the group chat and everything. These social aspects are not really something that has been a focus of the Wii U, as it is with the PS4 and the Xbox One. However, what they mentioned is that the Wii U utilises friend codes, which is fucking bollocks. The 3DS utilises friend codes. The Wii U does not utilise friend codes. That is an out-and-out fucking lie, and they should not be reprinting that kind of abject shit. Well, as promised, here we go. Nintendo. Now, they're at the end of the third quarter of their financial year, and they are projecting that they are going to be down 29.9% profit. Oh shit. Have they had a bad financial year? This has not been a good year for Nintendo. I really hoped this would have been the year where all their exclusives would have come out in the run-up to Christmas and they would have been a huge contender against Sony and Microsoft. But as it turns out, most of these games have yet to emerge. Which, Nintendo, you fucked up. I hate to say it, I really like you as a company, but you have fucked up. You have not offered the support to your customers. Some of your first-party titles have been terrific. Your 3DS titles in particular this year, your 3DS exclusives, have been terrific. 2013 has been one of the best games for handheld gaming in years. I fucking loved it. Get to play fantastic games. Get Project Cross Zone. Playing the Shin Megami Tensei ports on there. Playing bloody Monster Hunter 3. Playing Fire Emblem, which I've enjoyed that game so fucking much. And Animal Crossing did incredibly well. Pokemon X and Y sold over 2 million units since September. That's really bloody good for a handheld title. Unfortunately, you've been relying on a huge amount of Wii U sales, it seems, to help shift. And although that you seem to have sold a lot of 3DSs in Japan, the sales are slowing down elsewhere. Presumably because most people already have a 3DS who are going to get one. If you don't have one incidentally and you have the money, I recommend getting a 3DS. The titles on there are terrific. Really, really fantastic little handheld. Really love it. But, you know, a lot of people are asking the questions, what's wrong with Nintendo? What have they done wrong? Have they failed to move with the times? Now, in some respects, yes, and in some respects, no, because I would like to propose the suggestion that, in fact, the media has been representing a lot of things about Nintendo that are just lambasting it. Now, yes, it is not stepping into the shoes that Microsoft and Sony, particularly Microsoft, the way Microsoft are working, Nintendo are not competing with Microsoft on Microsoft's level. They are not looking at the social game experience. They're not looking to become the COD platform. That is not what Nintendo's focus is. So lambasting them for that is a problem. And perhaps that means that they're looking at unrealistic returns, because really their market is not growing in the same way that the other console markets are. Because of the competitive gaming angle. Because so many people buy an Xbox purely for COD and FIFA, and they will pay a fortune for that. Now, COD and FIFA is not a consideration on the Wii U, is it? And you have no interest in getting to that point. You're not going to have Grand Theft Auto. You're not going to have a lot of these titles that shift tens of millions of units. You are still the company that you are loved for by your fans. Unfortunately, you're looking for an expanded audience that just isn't there. And the media are continuously putting the boot in to just remind people and tell people just how fucked Nintendo are. When really, I think it's more of a matter that they're not growing and they're expecting to grow. And of course, if you're a big company, if you don't grow, you're as good as dead. And in light of these Nintendo results, Iwata, the president of Nintendo, has taken a 50% pay cut, presumably until this situation has been resolved or until he decides to leave. Other members of the senior management team have taken 20 to 30% pay cuts as well. Now, I admire them as professionals for doing this, because when your business is not doing well, a lot of companies, a lot of the senior people will just look to slash costs and to cut costs with people further down the food chain. I admire the fact that they have made the public concession and said, we are slashing our pay because we are not delivering. They are not leading the company in a way the company should be led in their estimation. They're admitting their failure, they're admitting their poor performance, and I admire them for doing the right thing in that situation. Now what you need to do is start assessing where your profitability in the company actually is and start to grow your revenue. However, as I mentioned, that I believe the media are somewhat behind the perception of Nintendo and how Nintendo are doing. Now, when Nintendo's stock plummeted recently, absolutely plummeted, the news and press were all fucking over it, saying how bad Nintendo are in trouble, how badly they're doing, how they're failing, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah, over and over and over. Every journalist writing a piece on why Nintendo are failing, why things are going wrong. So why the fuck did they not notice that Nintendo's stock returned back to the same price it was? Odd that. Nintendo's stock has returned to the same value that it was before it dropped. I believe it was 18%. It has returned. It has regained that value. The business still has the same value. Although it is looking at a decrease in revenue. It is looking at a decrease in profits. As a business, it is still as valuable today as it was before the stock plummeted. So, I don't know why I haven't seen the journalists actually doing a journalistic job. I guess they're just too busy stirring the pot and causing a load of petty fucking arguments. And the last piece of Nintendo before I move on to other topics. Okay, Donkey Kong. This may well be nothing. This may well be everything about telling us where Nintendo are going. Now, Nintendo have already come out and said they're not going to be porting their games onto handheld devices. They're not going to be selling their stuff to third party, really. That's not what they're looking at doing. However, an interesting thing is that the GamePad on the Wii U and playing Donkey Kong is actually blank. If you're playing it on the TV screen, it's actually blank. Now, if you're playing it remotely, the GamePad itself activates. Is that potentially a bit of a hint that Nintendo may well be looking to remove GamePad support from all games and have GamePad support as an optional accessory, and then perhaps rebranding the Wii U and selling it as a different SKU at dramatically lower cost with a GamePad, with a normal controller and not the mobile GamePad. A lot of people have had issues with that GamePad. A lot of people enjoyed it. However, the battery life's been suspect. A lot of people don't like the size of it. And a lot of people said, I just want a Pro controller. So maybe this is a step and a bit of a hint as to where Nintendo are going with redefining themselves and trying to regain their corner of the market. Well, EA are on the fallacy train to bullshit station again. They have claimed that the lackluster sales of Battlefield 4 are not as a result of the appalling quality of your fucking product. Appalling quality. Jesus Christ, it has got so many fucking problems with it. On launch it was practically unplayable on the PC. Anyway, they claim that it wasn't due to the quality, despite the fact that rumours were around like wildfire that the game was shitty quality. However, they've blamed it on the console transition, which is interesting, because Battlefield 4 sold pretty damn well on the next-gen consoles. In fact, in some cases, people were buying the title twice. And also, not to mention the fact that Battlefield is predominantly a PC title. So, I know that it sells a lot on consoles, now so Battlefield 3 sold a lot on consoles, but the Battlefield franchise has always been a core PC title. What exactly the fuck are you talking about? It wasn't the quality of the product. Bull fucking shit, it wasn't the quality of the product. It was the quality of the product, marked with the fact that, you know what? People are getting bored with modern military shooters. Those who aren't bored with it are mostly sticking to COD. That's the way things are going. You have not taken the crown. You wanted to be the #1 modern military shooter FPS. That's why you brought back Medal of Honor. Then you canned it because it wasn't selling and because it was shit, and focus on Battlefield, and then Battlefield is not giving you the returns either. Maybe you should just stick to milking sport franchises every year rather than trying to compete on the level of Call of Duty, because you cannot get those sales. Move the fuck on. And EA have just reported a $308 million loss in Q3. And I'm fucking delighted to hear that, because fuck you, EA. They have had some positive news in general. They've claimed that there's been a significant increase in the sales of digital goods, particularly the Ultimate Team packs that come with Madden, FIFA and NHL. 50% of their income is coming from their Ultimate Team DLC. Do you know how fucked that is? How fucking screwy that sounds? Now they are hoping to make at least $1 billion off Titanfall. They've got 1 quarter left to go at the end of the financial year. Titanfall's coming out. I can only assume that's what they're relying on to make an extra $1 billion. This is the scale of EA. They are fucking huge. People talking about how Capcom having 52 million in the bank is not, not a small amount of money. Really, we're looking at 308 billion lost in 1 quarter from EA. That's a big fucking company right there. And long may they see shit fall apart. They're not going to go under by any means. They've got far too much money at this stage. They have an entire stranglehold on the sports franchise scene. Not only that, but Origins is making... They have a lot of users on Origins. God knows why. I can't touch the thing. It makes my skin crawl just to think about logging into that system. So, yeah, there's a lot of money banding about with EA, but I am delighted to see that consumers are getting pissed off with EA. They have been, and those who are so fucking daft as to buy their titles and pay for their ultimate add-on shit. I know that you love your titles, I know you love your sports franchises and all that, but really you need to see where you're getting fucked here. And EA, when it comes to these things, are milking you fucking dry. Ha ha ha! Oh King, you scabby manipulative, double standard fucking IP whores. It is delightful to see you get fucked. Now, what am I talking about? I am talking about a game called Scamper Ghost. Now, Scamper Ghost is a mouse-driven game where you pick up coins and avoid ghosts. Now, that was originally going to be on King's website, back in 2009 when the game was originally developed. The deal itself fell through, and they went ahead and they reskinned, essentially, got a new developers to make a cloned game called Pack-Avoid, in which ghosts that look like the Pac-Man ghosts are chasing you in a game that is exactly the same as this game, Scamper Ghost. Now, the developers put out a blog about this. It all kicked off because, especially with regards to not just the game cloning, but also, I think you'll find using the word pack and utilising the image of the Namco Bandai ghosts may well be considered copyright infringement. Ha 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 ha. So they've pulled the game and now they're claiming that they're supportive, they want to support other people's IPs and their own, and they didn't mean to clone a game and they shouldn't have done, and blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. Absolute fucking bullshit. Now stop clogging up my fucking Facebook inbox. Well, shit, casual gaming is getting all political-like. Now, Angry Birds, it appears, is being utilised by the NSA and also UK intelligence agencies in order to spy on mobile gamers. Ho ho ho! Yeah, that's some bullshit, isn't it? Turns out that they've been utilising it. They can find out your location by using your GPS to find out your name, your age, your sexual orientation and whatever other data that is gathered. Now, to be fair to Rovio, they have claimed that this is in fact not their doing. They utilise third-party advertising networks. And they believe that they are the source of the information. So they have said they plainly do not share information with intelligence agencies. However, as it stands, if you happen to have some of these titles that utilise your data to get advertising revenue, which is practically all free-to-play games, that's why they exist. That's why those games can be free on your Android, on the Google Play Store, on the iOS App Store. That's why they're so cheap, because they make their money through advertising. That leaves you open to government surveillance. If you're happy with that, that's your call. If you're not, do something about it. Funnily enough, as a little bit of an addendum to this story, some hackers went on the Angry Birds website and they defaced it by, I believe they put up a cloned IP and replaced it, and they changed it to spying birds and put the NSA's logo on the front, which apparently, you know, Rovio resolved fairly quickly. But pretty fucking funny nonetheless. So yeah, be very careful what apps you are utilising on your phone, and the permissions, of course, that you're giving them, because you agreed to give them permission to look at certain data, and that is not private. They will sell it, they will utilise it, and unless you're willing to share that, you should be very, very cautious about what you do. Some good news for Steam users. Now, Steam will allow you to have some buyer's remorse. As it turns out that now, if you pre-order a game and purchase it, which I don't know why you'd pre-purchase a game without knowing what it's going to be like, that is a foolish call. However, if you wish to do that and what have you, you can now cancel and have the money refunded without having to go through Valve's customer support and all that kind of crap. So you now have the possibility of pre-ordering, paying for the title, and say some unfavourable reviews come out, you're not comfortable with the title anymore, news is making you feel uncomfortable, you can now cancel that for a full refund. Good job, Steam. I'm glad to see a digital distribution platform like yourselves, with all your DRM and the way you work, start to do things that are more positive for consumers rather than just the sales. And finally, some interesting news and a bit of an amusing anecdote to go with this. It appears that Microsoft came out the other day with they were going to announce something. Now, I just love these announcements of announcements that they're going to announce something at an announcement. But, as it stands, they were going to announce something. People were losing their shit over the concept of there being a Crackdown 3 announcement. They were so happy about the idea of Crackdown 3. I mean, personally, as I put on Twitter at the time, there's already a Crackdown 3. It's Saints Row 4. But people were so excited about the idea of a Crackdown 3. So excited. And then what did they announce? Everybody, we've bought Gears of War. It's now ours. We own it. Oh. Alright. And we're developing a new Gears of War. And our new internal house, Black Tusk, will be making a Gears of War for the Xbox One. The response from Twitter was fucking hilarious. Now, there's a lot of people who enjoy the Gears of War series, and maybe a new entry in the series would be good. Maybe they'll be able to up their game a bit. Make a bit more drop-in, drop-out co-op, perhaps. Just have that a bit more. I mean, I like the fact that it does that, and I'd like them to kind of extend that more and make it into a more enjoyable experience. You know, it should be good. Hopefully it'll be a good title. Hopefully. But the response was fucking hilarious. People were so pissed. They wanted Crackdown. And it wasn't coming. And that was really damn funny. So a lot of people deeply, deeply pissed. But if you're a fan of the Gears franchise and you have an Xbox One, just to let you know, there is a Gears of War game in development for the Xbox One. Anyway, guys, you've been looking through the 2020 vision of the Anarchic Eye. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll catch you guys later.